Welcome back. I'm still with Tim Montgomery, and we need to talk about the Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, he is still a Labour MP technically.
The really humble, sort of salt of the earth.
Yes, and he gets a lot of plaudits from the body politic, from the Westminster mob, saying how studiously unbiased he is. I'm not buying entirely into that. He has had his problems. So I got in trouble with Sir Lindsay Hoyle's office the last time I did this, because I said he was notoriously favourable towards his Labour mates. They didn't like that at all.
The telling office done no good at all, because you're repeating.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, I was
quite right too.
I was also told off by them, telling me that I didn't understand the job of the Speaker. Well, I think I understand what the Speaker does. What I didn't understand about the integral part of his job was apparently that he jets around the world to the tune of £250,000 in 2 years. That's outrageous. That is outrageous. Yeah. Now, these are fact-finding missions. I remember when we did the story in December, he'd just been to the Cayman Islands and sort of spent £4,000 in some hotel and made a visit to the Cayman Parliament to take a look at how they're speaking.
How convenient.
I mean, you know, what do we learn of any use there? So anyway, this guy, he always flies either first or business class. Even on short-haul flights to Dublin and Italy, he went first class. He stays in luxury hotels and costing up to £900 a night. In Los Angeles, not so long ago, he spent £3,000 on chauffeur-driven limousines. He spent £4,500 on chauffeur-driven limousines in Australia, and essentially it's just knocking up this massive bill. He stayed in Montserrat. When he went to Montserrat in the Caribbean, he actually chartered a private jet. He stayed at hotels such as the St. Regis in Doha, the Westin Grand in the Cayman Islands, and the Ritz-Carlton in Los Angeles. As I say, his rooms cost up to £900 a night. No wonder he is picking up the nickname now, Long Haul Hoyle. But you know, I don't mind the idea of our Speaker, you know, going on the odd trip to check how other parliaments do it. I suppose that's part and parcel of diplomacy, soft power, if you like. But this is beyond the pale. This is, I think, wanton waste of taxpayers' money.
Yeah, well, and also, why does it seem to be Caribbean islands he seems to be visiting? You know, where are the trips to Slovakia or Belgium? You know, or some places where they don't have golden beaches. Yeah. I'm sure we could learn from the parliamentary democracies of places that don't have round-the-clock sunshine as well. So, you know, I've always liked him, but this is unacceptable. Really is unacceptable. And you know, part of the problem, I think, Kev, is that Parliament is sovereign. So, you know, Parliament in Britain, and it's quite right, decides the law of our country. It's why some of us voted for Brexit. But it does, of course, I think, mean that the Speaker isn't really accountable to anyone, apart from MPs. And if MPs don't sort of start looking at how he conducts himself, then who will? The trouble is, though, of course, they're all intimidated by him because they worry about if they start investigating, then they might not be called for questions and they'll be sidelined some way. So there is an accountability issue here. So thank God for the press. At least keeping the spotlight.
People like me, we're not so bothered. No. So sorry, Sir Lindsay, you are still in the spotlight. When we did this story in December,
because you were first with this story.
Yes, of course, breaking the news, political asylum. We're always first with the news. The additions to the story, someone's done a Freedom of Information request to break down.
Yeah, but it was on the back of what you...
I mean, we did pick up on this, and in my report, I said, apparently, I know this because I have here the complaint from Sir Lindsay's office, 18th of December. Apparently, I said, the Speaker, and I quote, shows a definite prejudice towards his Labour mates. And I did go on, this is possibly unfair. I said, he's not a working MP or anything like that. And in fact, the Speaker does go on representing his constituency. So I'll accept that. I'll take that one on the chin. That wasn't fair. And my guess is He's a good constituency MP. He's just got that feel about him, you know, a local guy kind of thing. But this complaint goes on to say his trips overseas are not, quotes, jollies or jaunts. It is entirely wrong and inappropriate to compare the Speaker's official business overseas to reports of alleged bad behaviour by past MPs on APPG-led trips. I didn't do that. I never did that. So she's taking something that I didn't actually say there. But I did describe them as jollies and jaunts, and frankly, I'm going to stick to that. I say these are jollies and jaunts, and if the Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, had any sense, he would have taken far fewer of these trips. Then he could have done a couple of years. Trust me, he's going to get grounded over this, isn't he?
Look, I used to work for Ian Duncan Smith when he was leader of the opposition, and that's a responsible job. And I remember, you know, we stayed in basic hotels when we were travelling around the country. You know, it was travel lodges, Premier Inns. The idea that we would spend £900 per room per night. You know, there'll be people listening to this programme whose whole holiday every year will cost less than £900. You know, it's an outrageous use of taxpayers' money when people who are paying these bills are already struggling to meet their, you know, basic cost of living.
Yeah, and I remember when we did this story, I can't remember the exact figures, but, you know, there were single nights in the hotel or dinner bills for something, you know, for £800 and things like this. Now, I accept he's probably got people who entertain and all that, but I would contend, no ifs, no buts, Sir Lindsay Hoyle is going on far too many of these trips, and they are costing far too much of taxpayers' money, and he should desist and decease. Am I right, Tim?
You are always right, Kev.
That's exactly right. So there you go, Mr. Speaker.
Except, of course, if we start to be invited to cover these trips with him. And then we'll accept the legitimacy.
So, Lindsay, you should get us inside the tent. We'll come with you to the Cayman Islands next time, and trust me, I'll file a glowing report.
We're open to be bought, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly right. Corruption is my middle name. But seriously, this is wrong. This is wrong, and he's got to wind his neck in about this. And I look forward to his office complaining to me again. But frankly, try it if you like. Right, next up, we're going to stick with the same kind of story, really. Do you remember, you will remember, that when Labour was in opposition, one of its favourite games was criticising the Tory government for the amount of money it spent on private jets.
Particularly Rishi Sunak, they really attacked him for it.
Yes, that's right, jet travel generally, luxury travel, all that sort of thing. Well, just as a pointer, did you know that in the first 3 months of Labour's tenure as the government, they spent £2,085,447 on private jets. More than £2 million on private jets. That works out to £160,427 a week on private jets.
Surely you've made a mistake, Kevin. Labour wouldn't do one thing and say one thing and do another.
Well, it seems extraordinary that, I mean, I can barely believe it, but it seems they may well be guilty of hypocrisy.
Goodness
David
gracious.
Lammy alone apparently racked up in travel expenses for the first 3 months 850 grand, nearly £1 million. Well, I mean, where does he go? What does he do?
Chagos Islands.
Yeah, that's right. It's just the Chagos
Selling
Islands.
out Britain,
Yeah, and of course he has extra luggage fees to pay because he takes lots of sets of training shoes to wear whenever he goes to Washington, that kind of thing.